Hi everyone, it's good to have you with me. Today I've got a tip for you about your Tombow Multipurpose Glue. This is my go-to adhesive. I use this one a lot. I also like to use the tear and tape and the glue dots with the dimensionals, but just for day-to-day, for sticking the usual piece of cardstock down, I like to use the Tombow. And when I'm finished with it, I don't throw them away. I've got a tin that I collect them all up in for the purposes with which I'm about to show you now. So here are all my empty Tombow containers, and the idea is that I'm going to cut them all open and scrape out what's left in them and put them all back into one and hopefully get the last little dregs out of each one of them. So I haven't done this before, and I've been told that it's well worth doing, and it certainly makes sense. So I've got my kitchen scale here, and I've got a brand new Tombow, still in its plastic, and I'm going to weigh it and see how heavy it is when it's new. So I'm hoping that you'll be able to see that. It says that it weighs 41 grams. So let's write that down over here. New is 41 grams. And off to the side here I've got my empty one that I'm hoping to fill, and that one weighs 17 grams. So we'll write that down too, that an empty one weighs 17 grams. And at the end I'm hoping that once I've filled this one, I'll weigh it again and we'll see, oh, it's gone down to 16 grams. We'll weigh it again and we'll see what it weighs and how much I've managed to scrape out of all the other ones. So let's get to it. So the things I'm going to need, you can see that I've got some grid paper down to protect my work surface. I've also got a cutting mat underneath there so that when I get the sharp knife out, it will protect my table. I've got a sharp knife, and you're also going to need something to scrape all that glue out with once you've cut them open. So you could use an ice block stick, you could use a plastic disposable knife if you have one. I've got a rubber scraper you could use, and I've got a couple of palette knives. So I'm going to try using the palette knives and see how we get on with that. First things first, I'm going to show you a little bit of an anatomy, if you like, of the Tombow glue. So if you weren't aware, Tombow has two ends. It has the tip end, which is the end that I use all the time, and it also has, if you unscrew this end, it also has like a rubbery gummy sort of a applicator at that end. What I find this really useful for is if I've accidentally squirted out too much glue, then I use that to, oopsie daisy, I use that to sort of spread it around, and so I don't have a huge lump in the middle of my paper. The opening at that end is quite a bit bigger than the opening at the tip end. You can see that it's quite different, and both ends can be very useful, but usually I just use this end. Now sometimes I find that it can sometimes get a little blockage in the tip, and that's quite common. So something that you can do is you can unscrew this end here, and you can grab a toothpick, or you take your pick tool. See how you got a little bit of a something there, clear that away, and it's nicely unblocked again. We'll use a toothpick, or take your pick tool and use the pokey end of your take your pick tool. Now for the purposes of filling this, once I come to scrape out all the others, that end there, or this end, the rubbery gummy thing also comes out. As you can, got Tombow on me. As you can see, that end is a lot bigger, so I'm going to be filling it from this end. So because I want to fill it from this end, and obviously I can't put the pointy end down on the table, I've got a little cup here, and I'm just going to place that in my cup, and then I'm going to get my sharp knife and I'm going to cut one of these open. If you're doing this, please be careful with the knife, obviously. So let's see how this is going to go. So I've got one of my glues, and I'm just going to slice into it. And you don't need, I'm wobbling the camera around, so I'll pause it while I cut it. Right, so I've got the container cut open now. I'm not sure if you can see, I'll try bringing it up to the camera. You can see that there's a fair amount of glue still in there. And I'm going to scrape that all out and scrape it into here. I've got that palette knife that I was talking about. So if I just scrape it out and scrape it back into there. There is quite a bit in here that I'm going to be able to fill this one with. You can see there's quite a bit in there. I'm able to get a reasonable amount out. So I'll keep doing that with all of them. I won't put you through that on camera, and I'll be back to you soon. So I'm discovering this palette knife is really quite useful, because if I've got a big pile here like I have at the moment, which I scraped out, the air is stopping it from sort of all going in there. And this palette knife is just the right, there we go, the air bubbles popped. Just the right size to poke in there, to poke it all in. Now I've got the other end open in the hopes that I can get some airflow through. But this palette knife is proving to be quite useful, just the right size. So it's making a bit of a mess, but there is progress. I have discovered that it's best to keep the cap on the other end. The airflow idea wasn't really making any difference. And I've discovered that if I sort of scrape it onto the top and then tap it, it sort of falls in, and then I can do the next bit. Right, so I've filled them all. And now it's just a matter of cleaning up the mess around the edge. As you can see, I've made quite a mess until I perfected my method. But once you've figured out something that works for you, then, it's pretty easy. So you may not make as much mess as I did. A couple of them I've clearly had a very long time and they've completely gone off. So I suggest that you don't hold on to them for years before you decide to refill them. I have been collecting these up for a while thinking that I must do this video, so I probably will only leave it until I've got one or two, and then I'll cut them open and fill it up as I go. Okay, so now it's just a matter of putting the bung back in, like that, and putting the cap back on. It feels quite a bit heavier than it did. And our moment of truth, I'll move that so that I don't get glue everywhere. Moment of truth will be, how heavy is it? Now, if you remember, it weighed 16 grams before I filled it. Feels quite a bit heavier. How does it weigh now? And now it weighs 28 grams. And if you remember, the new one, when full, was 41 grams. So I'd say I've probably got about half a bottle there, half a bottle or a little bit more of Tombow now, scraped together from all the leftover ones that I had. So I think it was well worth the effort. Now, in terms of cleaning up my mess, my knife has quite a bit of glue on it, and my palette knife has a fair bit on it. So the thing I find really useful is a bit of tea tree oil, if you've got tea tree oil. And it just, I've got a cotton pad, got some on there, and just clean it with that. I use tea tree oil to clean my scissors when they get adhesive on them, which they do from time to time. Also, I have like another sort of a palette knife, you know, the palette knife tool on the take your pick. Sometimes that gets a bit of adhesive on it, and the tea tree oil just takes it right off. Really, really useful stuff to have. Now this has got a bit more glue on it, sort of more built up, so this may take a bit more effort to get off, and I may end up scraping it off a bit first. But as you can see with the palette knife, it's beautifully clean and it just perfectly does the trick. Thank you for watching the video. I hope you found it useful, and I'll see you later.